Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Obviously it's been a while, but we're back with something completely brand new. I did say on the other videos that I would be bringing something new to the channel, but today we're going to be discussing one of my favourite all-time games, Football Manager. So the new one, Football Manager 2023, is indeed on its way out. And this is just a video to say what I'd like to see the new features being. Hopefully these are going to be some features that we might see improved on and things like that. But we'll go straight down the list, and the first thing I'm going to say is, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video, and obviously leave your thoughts in the comments down below if there's anything you would like to see new in the game, any changes, anything like that. Let us know in the comments. It'd be nice to see a bit of interaction and we can discuss it in the comments down below. But yeah, so my first one for the video to speak about is indeed set piece creations. So what I mean by this is when you have the free kick ability to change how the players line up, how the players play, and things like that, and where they sit on the post. I just think it doesn't work as such because it changes when substitutions happen, when all these other things happen. It just doesn't work as good as it should. I think it's a key factor that should be improved on. I think you should be able to play basically there shouldn't be a locked in position where you have to stick the player. You can literally just tell the player where to go, and the player listen to you, and it's coded into the game so that the players play to how you require them to play, because we have seen this time and time again of where it doesn't happen on FM. I know it's a very complex system, but if you had seen yesterday, it was announced by the creators of Football Manager that there is a complete overall development in the team now. There's new people in the graphics department. There's just the full department's doubled in size, because the creator himself has said he wants to bring the best game, and I completely believe him. Things take time and things get developed on over time, but set piece creation definitely needs to have a look at, and coding needs fixed, and a bit more ability to change certain things like defending corners. I think it'd be nice to see your assistant communicate with you during the game and say the set pieces aren't working. I think you should be able to look at training situations. So if you're training a set piece, for instance, and you want that trained in that week, I think it should be able to get some feedback from the coaches to say this is what worked well, this is what didn't work well, this is what we need to improve on, and then you can have an overall look at the coaches. But touching on set pieces, that's when I think you need to have sort of a new staff member role come in, because we are seeing a lot of new roles getting added to the game as it gets developed. So potentially having a new staff coach which is solely designated on set pieces and how you defend and attack set pieces, I think could be a really good one. I think he could be the kind of guy that would come and give you sort of detail of what's working in and behind in the training ground, what's working on the pitch. I also think that you should be able to have a staff meeting properly where you sit down and you say, look, what's working, what's not working, and sort of go from there. I know this is a lot of complex, and the creators may say it's a lot to put in and there's a lot of detail and how it would work and things, but when you've got the brains of what these creators have, the world is your oyster basically. So that would be great to see implemented. One massive one, I can't stress this enough, of being a massive one that I hope is developed on, because everyone's bored of it. I did it recently on my other save that I run off camera. International management. So if you haven't already done international management on Football Manager, you'll know that it just gets repetitive and there's just too many gaps. Obviously this is true in real life, but if you want to be a full-time international manager, you should be able to do a lot more than just going to watch games and picking the teams. I think there should be a lot more implemented into the game, just to make it a bit more enjoyable, and want to stay as an international manager and not just manage two clubs at the same time. Obviously, it's a perfect time to do it now because the World Cup's coming up. So I'd be very surprised if they don't develop that and make it something special this year, especially with the World Cup coming up and when it comes up. Because obviously the game launches around the start of the World Cup, which is just it'd blow me away if they don't do anything in regards to international management. We know that they want to just improve certain aspects of the game. So why not improve aspects you've currently got and then develop over the time new aspects in? But it's always nice to have new aspects coming into the game. The other thing I'd like to see as well is sort of the coaches. I would like to see coaches have a bit more of an implementation of the game. By this I mean as though you understand of why it's good to have a high-end coach, what they actually bring to the game and things like that. Because yes, it's all good and handy going in and getting a fitness coach that's rated at 20, but that stat doesn't say anything to me other than he's rated out with a top rating because it is out with 20, and he just needs. There's a bit more there. You need to sort of understand the backroom team of why they're as good as they are basically. The other one I'd like to see as well is enhancing the way the coaches are with our wages, because we see this over and over again of where coaches just, you can get a coach of where he's a free agent. If he's a free agent, he wants a hell of a lot more than the other coach that's at Barcelona, for instance. If you get that Barcelona guy, yes, you pay his his compensation, sorry, but he has nowhere near the wages the guy at a free agent. I just think that needs to be enhanced on and needs to be looked at. I think that would be really good implementing the game, the wages overall. The other wage situation I've always said sort of get fixed as well is when you have a youth player, if they have one good season, partway through that season or the end of the season, they're demanding a new contract. I don't mind that. Don't get me wrong, I really don't mind that. So fair enough, yes, go and give them a new contract. But when you go into their demands of a contract and as a young player at the age of 19, 20, they're on £800 a week at some point, and then suddenly they're wanting nearly 20 grand, 30 grand, if not more than that, 80 grand and things like that. I think that needs looked at and I think that needs fixed because it just doesn't seem reasonable and it doesn't seem sort of a realistic version of the game. You wouldn't see a youth player asking for that ridiculous amount of money. Yes, maybe if some bizarre thing happened, but clubs just wouldn't pay it. You wouldn't go from paying someone £800 to paying someone nearly 40 grand in the sake of like a full season just because they've had a one-off amazing season. So I just think that needs to sort of be looked at in regards to player demands. The other one I think needs to be looked at as well is the way players come and approach you as a manager. Because obviously we do know players can be a bit of an arse. They can whinge and complain about things, but I think there should be a level of sense of where you can say certain things to a player and the game recognises these things. So like instead of using the set things that are in the game, there is an option where you can add additional comments. So if you use an additional comment, the game, because it is possible, you can always enhance it so game code reads what you're basically putting into the game. We've seen it with other games that have been released over the years. So basically, you go in, a player comes in, he's like, look boss, I want to, win the Champions League. Yes, there is options to say, we're not going to win the Champions League this year, blah, blah, blah. I just think that it'd be nice to have some options of where you can go to the player and say, look son, we're not going to win it this year. We've got a project here. Say like you have a project with a team, for instance. Say someone that's just went down or someone that's been down for a bit of time, like Norwich. If you're, like the save I'm doing with Norwich, we're doing a project. So the player comes to you, has this conversation where you turn around and go, well, look, when it's not possible now, but we are predicting in our time scale of how we're taking over the club and moving forward, that we will try our very best to win the Champions League in 5 year time. The player then can recognise that he's either not willing to wait, but most players, if you have a good connection with most players, they're willing to wait. Because I think that's another thing that needs enhanced in Football Manager as well, is building relationships. It's all good and handy, but even if you build a relationship with a player, the way FM's coded, the player will still want to leave if he wants to win the Champions League. I think there's a level of sense of, if you build a really good working relationship with a player over a couple of seasons, you should then be able to build that relationship and be to the player, look, this is the project I sold you and we're still going down this project route. Let's give it a couple of more seasons and you'll see where it is. If it doesn't work out, we can look at exploring your options and letting you go. I think that makes sense. I think if the game's going to go into the detail it goes into, it would make sense to put something like this in the game. It would take some time, don't get me wrong, because it's a hell of a lot more different database to implement into the game, and it's a big code to sort out. The other one I would like to see improved on as well is when it comes to transfer fronts. I would like to see a bit more interaction you can have, to say the least. So if you say you have a super agent, you can approach a super agent and he has a bunch of players and he comes to you and says, look, at this player isn't really happy, this is how much the club. So we've seen it where you can ask the availability of the players, but a bit more enhanced version of this, of where you approach the agent, you just say, I'm interested in your player, or I see you represent a good few players. What would be the likelihood of them wanting to leave their club? This is our project. You can sell the project yourself to them and have that conversation and say, this is what we're planning to do with this club, especially if you're someone like Newcastle who's just had a takeover. Or you can have your sporting director sit in that room with you, or even just the coaches in general, one of your assistant managers or something, sitting in that room with you in general, discussing with the agent and saying, this is our project, this is the prospect of what we want to do, this is how we look to develop over the next 5 years. Do you reckon he'd be interested in leaving that club and coming to us? If so, how much for? Do you reckon the club will be willing to sell him? Blah blah blah. I just think something like that would make sense, and you see it happen in the world of football. Players and managers selling things to agents. We've seen that with multiple clubs over the years. So I think something like that needs to be implemented into the game, because then it brings a whole different aspect to the game and how you sign players and how you sell a project to the players. Especially if you're someone like a League 2 side, an English League 2 side, and you're trying to loan a player, and the first thing you get is just, this player will just not be interested in the club. You can't then go and reach out to that player and say, look, we're really interested in you. This is why we're interested in you. This is what we want to do. Even if it's just a loan, they'll just straight up say no. We don't want it. He doesn't want to come. There's no option to having a discussion with a player and selling a project to them and saying, look, it's only for a season, but if it works out, would you stay permanently? Even if they say no, but you've had that conversation with the player and you've had that conversation with the agent. You can also offer incentives and things like that. These happen in real life football, so I think things like this need to happen in the game. Obviously, a game of real life football can't be sort of bang on the same, but we need to see things like that being implemented in the game. Also, the other thing I would like to see, hopefully as well, is we're seeing deadline day, so the whole deadline day event sort of get put into the window as such. I think they need to look at that and develop on that a bit more, because yes, it's a really good concept. I love deadline day. I love the fact that it ticks down by the hours and things like that. But I also think there could be a couple of interesting things you could put in there, where an agent approaches you last minute and says, look, my player wants to leave. He really likes your club. He wants to leave. Or you could have eventful moments of where a player's agent bounces off you, and then he's trying to use you as an incentive, and then he ends up signing for another club, and it just completely messes with your head, gets it really frustrating for you. But it's things that happen in real life, and it would be nice to see it happen in the game. So players, like, he's going to come and sign for you, next second you know, someone's hijacked the deal, he's turned his car around and went up the other end of the country. I just think things like that just really spice up the game and show how, like, emotional and, like, chaotic deadline day could be. So things like that would just be mad to just put into the game. Because especially if you're going to bring something like deadline day in like that, you need to add the hectic schedule with deadline day. You need to add in the situations where you can go out as a manager, you can have conversations with people. The other good thing I think would be mint, and I really do think it would be mint to have, because we see it happen in a lot of high-end Premier League clubs, is have things for like your scouts and like your director of footballs and things. If you have a director of football that's doing your transfers, you should be able to send your director of football out and just say like you're interested in someone like James Maddison, for instance. You could then turn around, I'm just going to use this as an example, you could turn around and go and have the option of sending Ashworth to Leicester and having a discussion with Maddison. This could take 20 minutes, half an hour. That's an hour of deadline day up, but it also means that he's had a discussion with Maddison, then you get a feedback of saying, is he interested? If he is, speak to Leicester, find out the negotiations of a contract, prices and everything like that. things like this would make a deadline day more realistic and just a little bit more serious and stressful. And it's one of those things you're like, wow, this happens in real life. It's in a game. It's working. It's mint. I just think something like that just adds something completely different to the game. It is a lot of it's a massive ask to put into a game, but if you can put that in a game, it just makes a game feel a lot more real, just like Football Manager does feel. And anyway, it feels a lot really realistic compared to FIFA and things like that. So I've got a bit of notes in front of us. That's why I keep looking down. So I'm just going through what I've picked up over this year and many years before this. The other one I've got is enhancing the AI. What I mean by this is enhancing the AI of making offers for players, not just unrealistic offers, because you've got times where you just constantly get loads of loans for players that aren't even listening up for loans. And then when you reject that loan, basically you reject that loan, the next thing you know, you got 5 loan offers in for this player. It just doesn't make sense. I also would like to see when you offer a player out, or if you have an offer for a player, if you turn around back to say someone like Tottenham comes in for maximum, if you say to Tottenham, I'm not selling you him for less than 100 million, it sets an asking price at 100 million by default for St. Maximum. You have to manually go in and change that. That needs taken out of the game, because is me as a Premier League manager trying to sell it to a rival Premier League club, I'm going to massively overcharge the rival club. You're not then going to want someone like Real Madrid to lose interest because you told Tottenham you're going to not sell them for 100 million, whereas Real Madrid could come in and offer 85 million. You're going to say yes because they're not a rival club. So stuff like that just sort of makes sense to me. I think it needs taken out of the game to where it sets that up. I know you can't just manually go in and take it off, but it shouldn't have to be like that. So I'd like to see that removed. The other one is the amount of players that sort of just leave as free agents. There's times where I've played Football Manager saves and we've seen like the likes of Mbappe leaving on a free agent because a club just haven't offered him a contract. I think this needs changed. I know there's times where the player can reject the contract, but I would like to see a bit more. We've seen it with the Twitter feeds and things like that. I would like to see it a bit more where if Mbappe or a high-end player or a high-end prospect or just anyone rejects a contract at the club and it shocks the media, I would like to see it in the media, so then you can say it for the Twitter feed, like, wow, Mbappe is like rejected the contract, let's like explore that, and then you can add him to your shortlist and sort of monetary situation. I just think things like that just make it a bit more realistic as well, and it just adds a bit more of a touch to the game. Obviously, I've touched on the fact that I would like to see, if you make additional comments, that the AI recognizes these in game. You've seen it in all the other games that get released, like newer games now, where you can literally speak to the game. This is how crazy it is. You can speak to the game and the game will speak back to you. It's just amazing technology, and it's possible. But that'll not happen in regards of me saying that Football Manager will implement it so you can speak through your microphone and it'll go to the players. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you can type a message as an additional message of what you want to say, not what the game wants you to say, and then you get a response back that's also encoded into the game of where the player recognises what you're saying, and then you get that response back. I just think it would be amazing to sort of see that. We've got... Yeah, so obviously we touched on the fact that we'd like to get the ability. I would really love it if we can get the ability of where you can sit down with a player and an agent and just sell a project to them, because I think that's massive. Because the worst part is, you see it a lot in real life football at the minute. Players want to leave their club even though they've got Champions League football, but you've sold them a project and told them where you're going to be in the next 5 years. So then you've sold this project to the player. It's a bit like promises. We see promises in Football Manager. So it's like an incentive. You're going to promise them that you're going to achieve Champions League football in 5 year time. If they don't, they're going to get annoyed. They're going to want to leave. Or if they don't play, you don't play them enough, they're going to want to leave. They don't play well in the team, they're going to want to leave. They're not feeling like the league and things like that, they can leave. If you get what I'm saying, sort of, it needs something about selling a project to players should be able to happen in the game. You shouldn't just get knocked back and then not be able to talk to the player. I just think that's stupid. But the whole agent situation of where you can ask the agent, I think needs enhanced, and it needs to be a bit more interactive with you as a manager. I would love to see. I would love to see a bit where you can also approach clubs and have discussions with clubs properly, talking about players. I would also like to see more about the one thing I would love to see a lot more of is the AI offering you players. So obviously you as a manager, you can go in for someone and then offer them an exchange of a player. We don't see it a lot with like the AI. You don't see the AI very oftenly offering you a player and cash for one of your like prospects or one of your first team starters. I would like to see that changed and that happen a lot more. I just think it would be something different and interesting to see happen. Hopefully, it wouldn't get caught at the point of where we see stupid things like you see it in FIFA, where players just get offered to you no matter what. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully they can enhance it and get the code in properly, where it sort of you get offered players that make sense. So that would be my last wish for Football Manager. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments of what your wishes are going to be for the new graphics, the new features, anything like that in the comments down below. We'll have a discussion about it. It'd be nice to just have a chat in the comments about what everyone else's views are on the game. Obviously, don't forget, if you're new to the channel, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this one. We are going to be starting a couple of new series on the channel. And also don't forget as well, if you haven't already purchased yourself a copy of Football Manager, there is a link always in the description of the video where you can get 25% off the game, brand new, completely legitimate copy for the Steam. You get beta access and everything like that. A trusted retailer, so yeah, check that out. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one, and yeah, goodbye.